Hey everybody, today we've got an interview with Quantic student Nigerian Rachel Magaji, and she is going to talk us through this journey that she's on. Even as somebody, I'm sorry to talk about age, but even as somebody at such a young age, she has such a collection of experiences and interests that I think you'll find the discussion pretty interesting. I think it's pretty cool how somebody at that age, she comes from a background where learning was valued, which I think is so important to come from a family like that or an environment like that. And she's gone through such a range of experiences already, trying to, I think, gather experiences and interests and knowledge to direct her on her journey throughout her life. It's pretty cool the way she approaches it. She's very knowledgeable. We talk about some interesting things like product design, UI, UX, and even things like sustainability. Take a watch and I'll be back after. There we go. Hello. Well, very nice to finally meet you.
Hi, Phil. How you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Very okay. It's nice to meet you too.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so I was so keen to talk to you because I'm just trying to get as many varied people as possible to talk to on this podcast of mine.
Yeah.
And you have an interesting, you're doing user interface and user experience work. And I've interviewed somebody who's done that already, so now I can kind of understand it a little bit. But also, of course, you're taking this course from Africa, from Nigeria. So that's a different perspective than the other people I've talked to. So I really wanted to get some other things. And I think what I'm very interested to know is, why are you taking an MBA?
Okay, so I think it's more like a journey for me. You know, given my background, I wasn't in the entrepreneurship. I wasn't really lined up for that. So I started as an environmental management and manager because I studied environmental management. Yes, so I was all about sustainability and everything about conservation. I was really strong about conservation. But after university, I decided to, um, I don't know, technology and entrepreneurship kind of started sounding very interesting to me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started with digital marketing. But then I've always been this person who had been very research based, who had been really strong in research. Like I wrote a lot of academic research. I won't say a lot, but I was just within that phase where I loved academic research a lot, and I did a lot of things in academic research. So it was easy for me because when I realized that there was actually a field in which I could bring in my love for research and really dive into it in and finally seeing that what I thought of, in Nigeria, what we have is we have lots. If you go into libraries, you see a lot of research papers that have been written by students that were never implemented. Think about things like that. So I love the idea that design gave me the ability to do this, where I could research on something and then at the end of it can be implemented. Like you can literally see what you've researched on and everything just come to life because yeah, you said, okay, so what was the problem in this? You identified the problem, you set a hypothesis, then you validate it. After that, you realize that you can actually bring out a little solution, maybe the lowest hanging fruit. You pick it up and then work on it, then you develop it into a product that can actually create impact. So I saw that and I was really interested, and so I decided to take on the UI UX design. So along that route, I kind of got into a postgraduate diploma in Nigeria at Nigerian University of Technology and Management. So it introduced me into entrepreneurship and everything about entrepreneurship. Basically, I learned so much about entrepreneurship and I was really excited about it. So it was like, after this, what next? So and then I realized that I already had basic understanding of how microeconomics works, macroeconomics,
Mm.
the FDIs, and how marketing works, like coming from a marketing perspective as well. And then I saw that I needed to, sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, awesome. So I realized that I still needed to explore this because I'm a very curious person. I just want to see how I can solve problems from the biggest, I mean from any perspective, really. Any
Mm.
perspective really worked for me. So, and then I saw the MBA program and decided to take it because I was really ready to go into the startup world to explore how products are built. Now, with my UX design background and everything, I wanted to really build product because I realized that being a UX designer is different from being a product designer. There's a
Yeah.
it's a very there's a difference. So I just wanted to be a product designer where I think about the entire process, like from product ideation to its development and launch and post launch. I have to think about it from that perspective. So as a result, I decided to take the MBA because I wanted to understand strategy, wanted to understand how business leaders think about products, and I want to actually, and maybe eventually, have my own startup one day or so.
That, I mean, that's an amazing journey. What you've just described to me is quite like, I mean, it sounds like three lifetimes worth of journey packed into a few years. But
Yeah.
so to go from that, from environmental to sales to user experience to kind of entrepreneurship, do you think you will go back, let's say, to environmental and sustainable and maybe have an entrepreneurial approach to that?
Well, I'll say yes. Actually, I think so. Before I went to that school, I had this wonderful plan to have a startup in helping solve maybe waste management because
Mm.
I realized that some states in Nigeria were having issues with managing waste. So I felt like that was like a startup idea, maybe have a product that can help or teach people how to manage waste, or maybe manage this waste for people, like using innovative technology. I really don't know how that will pan out yet. I'm
Right.
still thinking about it. So there are other ways we could do that. Like, so that was from the environmental perspective. But after I went to school, I realized that, yeah, they are very important. But then I started nursing the idea of returning to school to have maybe my master's degree in environmental management. So it was at that point where I was like, maybe I'm not so ready right now to know what I want to do because it's
Mm.
not so clear right now because there's so many things I'm interested in. If you leave me, I will say I want to go into conservation. And then there's the issue of climate change, which is a
Mm.
burning issue currently. And there's so much I need to know. And given how I've dabbled with life with different perspective, I still feel like I could use design in solving most of these problems, but I just need to know how to do it. I need to
Right.
know how to do it and what perspective, what strategies to take. So that's why I'm actually going through all these rigorous processes and hoping that hopefully, not really hopefully, I just have some ideas, but then
Mm.
I think when
Well, I
I'm
mean,
ready,
everything
I'll
starts
just
with an
go back into
idea,
it.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And personally, I don't think there's anything more important than, environment, sustainability, and climate change. I think that's the most important thing to deal with on this planet, but
Yes.
just because it's the most important, doesn't mean that there's not space to do other things. I mean,
Of
we
course.
still need to have these other products. Um, Sometimes I get wrapped up in the idea that, everybody should be doing, this incredible thing and trying to fix the planet. But I mean, everybody does everything, you have to kind of evolve into it, really. And
Yeah.
I think it comes out also really comes out of experience. If you don't have any experiences, you don't have any ideas, and so
Of
the more
course. Of course.
experiences you have,
Yeah.
the more ideas you'll get. um, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, so you're right now you're
Thank
working
you.
also, right, as a product. You're working now as a UX person,
Yes.
right? So
I'm a product designer. So yeah, a product designer.
Sorry, yeah, product designer. Um,
Sorry.
what kind of in what sector, in what field are you working in for doing that, if you can say?
Oh, so I would say, okay, so I am that kind of research, a designer who wants to experience different industries because I don't want to. I have my reasons for being someone who is multidisciplinary. I don't want to focus just on one,
Hmm.
maybe one discipline at a time. So I have various experiences across different disciplines. There was a time I actually co-founded a startup in the property space. That was the real estate and everything, but then it didn't just quite work out. But it's all right. So we have currently I am working at it's kind of financial, like a fintech, but it's more
Hmm.
in the payment sector, payment services. Yeah, so
Oh,
that's where I'm
that's right.
working. That's the
I
industry
saw
I'm
that.
working in.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I've worked in ed tech before, like education technology. It was more climate centric, climate change,
Hmm.
subject to climate. So, yeah, I've worked there as well, and I've worked in education. I mean, research and development, widely Africa. I've also worked at uh, well, there's just a lot of them. I can't really think of right now. But
So,
I've also worked at the design studio just but basically it's just how to use systems thinking and design thinking to see how to solve problems. It doesn't matter what industry the problem is, just I just want to solve them using and iterating on my processes to see if they work at each industry because number one, I'm a curious person and I don't want to be tied to one sector. I just want
hmm.
to
In your mind, when you talk about products and services that you want to develop yourself, do you think, are you thinking, how to put it, online or physical products? Like, what's the thing that interests you the most of that?
Okay, I love your question, really. I really do. So so the thing about this is when I was starting out my career, I met with one of my mentors, Itika Gupta from Studio Carbon. So she always had this issue with the idea where if designers had a problem they needed to solve, like there was a problem that everybody saw. So maybe at the point of maybe the design brief, you're given the design brief and you're like, you need to solve a problem for maybe the informal sector, for example. So, and then the first thing that comes to most designers' mind is how to start building interfaces for them. So,
Hmm.
but then she taught us that you don't have to think about it from that perspective. It could be just have an open mind and think about it from a solution perspective. It could be anything. So using that, I've actually tried to think about problem solving not only at the point of developing digital products. I've seen it. I've been open minded to see how far it can take us. I mean, I've seen different ideas where a chair was designed differently from how it's supposed to be because someone put so much thought into it and said, okay, we want this chair to be maybe want it to be more ergonomic because there are people who sit in just one place and then the other chairs would not be sufficient for their spines and it would just so we want them to be more comfortable. So and there are other chairs that enable people to do other things, just not just to sit. I mean, it just how can I design things not from, I mean, not having something in mind, but
Hmm.
more like having something, I mean, being open minded to see where the solution leads us. So most times when we start those exercises, she tells us to create a list of the possible solutions we think might work for it. Then when we do that, yeah, dump them, just dump them somewhere. You don't really need to see them anymore. Just put them out, put them list as many as possible. Then when you do that, then she asks us to dump them. Then we begin the research process from the
Hmm.
beginning. Then we go through the idea validation. We go through every process just line by line. Then eventually, then you get to that point where you get to bring up a solution. So the solution may fall within the physical product. It could fall maybe within, maybe it could be a movement or something. It could be a digital product. It could be anything. So Using those experiences, I've learned that not all solutions must be digital. So some can be physical. It could be something else. It could be just, could be a sign on the street, maybe something that says stop, something that says go.
Right.
As funny as that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a long time ago, probably before you were born, I used to hang out with a bunch of people who were all industrial designers.
Awesome.
And industrial design is the most fascinating field of study, because this is before we had apps and smartphones and things like that. So, we had a choice of really, designing a physical product or designing a printed product. Those are kind of the only two things. And what I learned by hanging out with industrial designers, is that, this idea that the most simple thing is usually the best solution, because it's probably the cheapest to make and the easiest to use and all the rest of that stuff. And so find the most simple thing that'll fix that solution and then make that simple thing as great as you possibly can make it,
Yeah.
And I think I learned a lot from those people. Also because I write software, that's kind of my thing, is to write software. So I kind of took that idea and said, that's the most simple software is the best software, and now it's kind of gone the other way. And I think because computers are so powerful, we can have all these incredible pieces of software with, the things that spin and all the rest of stuff on the screen, but really you
Yes.
just need a single button that does the right thing,
Yes.
Yeah. I think that idea, that's why I was so interested when I spoke to someone else who was a user experience designer, and I saw that that's what you were doing in product design. I think that that's so fascinating because, that whole thing is about to sit back and say, what's the best solution?
Yes. Yes.
I think so many people get hooked on the idea of the coolest technology.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. So what we do during times like this, so at the point of ideation, you may come up with a lot of ideas, but so we have frameworks that help in prioritizing some of this ideas. So we most of them, if you see, we use idea prioritization matrices or Eisenhower. Eisenhower
Mm-hmm.
who was my matrix. So most times you get to see we have a way. So which one we could prioritize it according to which one was maybe more expensive, or which one was is more difficult. And then I also have a product management background a bit for my first job. So we also use RICE, which is like rich impact, something like that. And
Oh, I don't know that
I
one. Okay.
yeah. So we use the RICE framework as well. So it kind of helps in prioritizing maybe tasks you're supposed to do as maybe a developer. So most times when we have various ideas, we just prioritize them. And we prioritize them, we always go for the easiest to fix, the simpler fix, the cheaper fix, which one won't be so difficult, basically. So it will save our time. And you're right, you're very right by saying that the simplest solutions are actually the most effective, because they wouldn't really cost so much, and then we wouldn't overcomplicate things, like making things too difficult for the user to use, because we think the user needs some things, but what they really need are the simplest things. And so
Yeah, they need
yeah,
something that works.
they just need something that works.
So you have already some experiences about, like you said, economics and things like that. So when you're coming into the MBA, what do you think you're going to get out of the MBA?
Okay.
Apart from being able to say, now Rachel is Rachel MBA.
Yes. Okay, so one thing I had really loved about when I did my postgraduate diploma was because it opened my eyes to see other things. Because coming from a science background, which was environmental management and everything, or social science background, so I didn't know so much about the business and how business worked and entrepreneurship worked. So in fact, it was so surprising that I didn't know anything at all about it. So, but when I came in there, I began to experience people as well, and as well as the courses I was taught, and then the potentials I had as an individual who knew how the startup organization works and how products are built. So I wanted to have the MBA just to go further from what I was taught in school, because it was more like a 1 year program that had about 22 courses. So everything was like taught in like a sprint. So you just get
Right.
to learn a lot of things at once. And so it was really, really hard digesting everything. Although it gave us a very good foundation, but I still needed to explore more to know to go further than what I was taught in school. And I just wanted something more lasting. So I went into that's why I went into the MBA program, because I felt like I had a foundation enough to learn so much about and to stick out for the MBA program. And I had a mission, because I really felt like I could actually have a startup in the future. So I needed to equip myself, and
Mm.
probably I will still want to go and continue my studies in environmental management as well. And so I just wanted something. I decided to say, okay, yes, I have an MBA degree, and so let me, even if I go for the environmental stuff, it will just be something that's complement who I am as an
Mm.
individual who is trying to progress her career or something. Yeah.
Mm. Now, I don't know, I'm not going to claim to know a lot about Nigeria, and I know a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but as a woman in
Yes.
Nigeria, do you think
Mm-hmm.
that the MBA also will maybe give you a bit more of a credibility?
Well, I think it would. It would. I haven't just explored the fact yet, but
Hmm.
I think it should, because yeah, because where I currently work, I think one of my qualifications, which was more of the postgraduate diploma, actually played a role in that as well. Beside the
Hmm.
fact that I knew my craft and I was
Hmm.
experienced and skilled, but the fact that I had the postgraduate also helped. So as a woman in Nigeria, of course, yeah, it should. It really should.
I mean, part of the reason I took it is because I think it'll help me, like because I want people to take me a bit more seriously,
Sure.
even though, because maybe my problem is I've got all the guitars. That's a problem. But,
Not
you know,
really.
so
I actually play guitar, so
I want people to think I'm a real businessman, even though I've running a business for 25 years.
awesome.
I want people to think I'm a real businessman, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to take the MBA. You know,
Yes.
so I just wonder, because I don't really mean it. It doesn't really have anything to do with Nigeria or being a woman. I think it's just to be taken seriously.
Well, yeah. I think yeah. So the thing is, when I have conversations with people, and then I'm like, so I'm going to do my MBA. So people are like, wow, that's really great. So I think even in conversations, I'm really taken seriously. So
Mm.
I wonder when it translates into something much bigger than just conversation. So I know it would. It definitely
Right.
would.
Because I think other people, is one of the things they've mentioned as well.
Yeah.
And also inside, it makes you feel like, okay, I know what I'm talking about. I have an MBA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. True.
So, do you know many people who have an MBA, like in your personal life? I don't.
Okay, so I do. My dad has an MBA, so that's the
Okay.
thing.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I grew up. My dad is. I grew up in a family that is more into education so much. So he has a lot of experience schooling. So he loves schooling. So I think I just developed a love for that as well. So and I've not seen so much some other people, but I know that okay. I think a couple of my friends from school, NUTM, Nigerian, a lot of
Hmm.
them too have MBAs. Yeah, so yeah, I know a lot of people with MBAs.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I think that that's great. You grew up with such, love of learning. That's
Hmm.
probably, I think, the most important skill anybody can have, because I meet a lot of people
Yeah,
who just can't be bothered to learn. I don't understand that myself. You know, like I always want to learn new things. You
true.
know, yeah,
It's really great. I mean, growth stops when you stop learning.
yeah. So how are you finding the course? Like, difficult, not so difficult, some, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. So compared to the program I underwent before going for the MBA, I think Quantic has a better way of putting these concepts. To a point that I actually think I'm very good at data and statistics.
Mm-hmm.
It actually gave me the notion that you're actually good in this. The first time I encountered statistics, I thought it was like the most difficult thing in the world. So, it's really difficult. Really, it's difficult. But then, looking at the way the Quantic curriculum puts it out, the way they use storytelling and the way they use the gamified experience where
Yeah.
you are learning by failing, something like, as
Yeah.
as you begin to read the courses, yeah, you'll be able to guess some things based on in common sense, and then based on what you knew before. So you'd be like, okay, so maybe this could be the correct answer. So you click it, then say no, then you will know why you failed, and then you
Yeah.
know why you shouldn't feel. So maybe subsequently, when you see questions like that, you know exactly what the answers are. So in that way, you're learning so much about you're learning so much about the course, and then things like multivariate analysis are not so difficult because there's the backward and the forward stuff, and it's really cool, really really cool.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I find that you learn a lot. Like, so I bought the microeconomics book,
Oh, nice,
because
nice.
I loved the microeconomics so much.
Yeah,
And but what I figured out is that I think we learned almost this whole book in Quantic.
we
All-
did.
It's amazing, actually, that
Wow.
everything that's in here they put into that app. And because they did it in kind of a clever way.
Yeah.
Whereas in here, they had to spend 40 pages to talk about something. Whereas in Quantic, somebody very cleverly came up with a bunch of questions that asked it, right? I, I,
Yes.
I think it's really amazing, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing. Like I don't really. It's just so good. It's really good. In school I hated microeconomics. I did. That was in the when I started in Nigerian University. I
Hmm.
didn't like it. It was like one of my worst courses because it was like, what are these people talking about? I mean, every other person is like following, and then you're just so lost most of the time. You're like, what's happening? But coming to Quantic, I realized that most of these concepts, with the way they put it out for us, it was just so easier to digest, and then
Yeah.
everything began to make sense again back from school. Like, oh, I see why he did it this way. And then there are some. I like the way Quantic does things. For example, sometimes they don't put them in those specializations too, but they have them as part of other courses you may take. One of the courses that stood out for me was game theory. So when I was learning game theory in school, I liked the fact that it was that nice. But then when I took it from Quantic, it was nicer, really nicer. I enjoy
Now
I enjoy
you're
it.
you're ahead of me because you're going to be graduating soon, right?
Yes, yes, of course. I'll be
Right.
graduating soon. Yes.
Yeah. I've got another year to go. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So you
Well,
get to
awesome.
enjoy the courses.
I mean, I'd be happy if I was graduating sooner, but I'm happy for it to be another year.
Yeah,
But
right.
so what's your plan? Let's say, so you're going to graduate in June, but
Mm-hmm.
so do you have like what's Rachel's plan for 2024?
Well, 2024, I think my first plan is to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, I have a job, right? But I want to get a better job that actually based on my MBA, right? Based
Mm-hmm.
on what I want. So I want to get a job that helps with that. Maybe I want to work where I enjoy. Not I don't say it's not work where I enjoy per se. I want to do what I enjoy doing.
Mm.
More, I have gotten this concept. There's lots of concepts that are really good in the startup environment or the business environment. So I want to actually put them into practice. Basically, I want to be a leader, a strategic leader who is calling the strategic maybe shift in how the company should go, maybe in product development.
Mm.
How should we develop this thing? How should we what's what marketing strategy should we use, what product strategy should we use, how does everything that I have learned um, factor into what I want to do. So basically, I want to really be more. I want to go into more of a managerial position, like really take charge of the product and be responsible for how the products are developed. So that's basically what I want to do. And yeah, that's
Wow,
what I want to
great.
do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks so much for talking with me. I'm glad we really got the chance to do it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So that's my interview with Rachel Magaji. I think you'll agree. Pretty cool outlook on life that she has. Fascinating approach, and is somebody to watch, really, I think, in years to come. I hope you like these kinds of interviews. I've got lots more to come, and of course, talking about my personal journey through the EMBA. So like, subscribe, bell notification, so you can watch as many of these as you can stomach, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.